Greetings, everyone. Lisa here. If you go to sleep at night, you feel like you've done something, more than likely you have. We consider this that you work for the army of the Lord or you're working for the army of the bad guys. Either way, I'm speaking to you. These theorems are based on Dolores Cannon's work, reading my Bible, and my own personal experiences. Now, when I talk about the dream time, we're talking about awakening stuff, and there's many layers and there's many layers to awakening, okay? And you just don't awaken and then there you are. It's a growth process, and you have to be into it. You have to do the work. You have to do the learning. Now, when you go through the meditation stage where you got all those thoughts run through your mind, and then you get past that, it takes a little while, and then you start seeing things in your third eye, and that's when you begin to work in the dream time. Now, this channel is specifically for people who know they operate in the dream time. Now, today's been a crappy day for me. My identity's been stolen. My spirit team does want me to speak about it. So, Sophie Hunter has stolen my identity. Liz Olson has stolen my identity. Catherine Winnick has stolen my identity. My sister Mary Campo has stolen my identity. Karina Rivas has stolen my identity. And I think there's two other people. I could guess at them, but I'm not going to. I think there's 7 total stolen identities. Now, I went to do my taxes today. And once again, the last place I worked for didn't have the correct address. I didn't get the things. I'm not in it. Because Elon Musk and all his friends go into all my fucking shit and fuck with me. They fuck with me on every level. They fucked with all my paychecks. They fucked with every place I've worked at. And I'm really getting fucking tired of it, okay? And I'm not joking about this stuff, people. I'm not out here just to be funny. I'm out here because my spirit team requires it of me. Now, they want me to show something. Now, I couldn't get an IP from the IRS because the place where I went to requires that if your identity has been stolen, you need an IP. Now, I have to go through the interview process. I can't just get an IP, IRS, whatever the fuck that is. I'm really sick of this AI bullshit. I'm sick of Elon Musk. I'm sick of the fact that he has such a finger on the fucking world. Okay, but this is something they say should pucker his fucking asshole. So, I want you to see this. There's where this letter has come from. Okay? Now, the United States government has a program going on that states they're bringing back soldiers over from Dover and various places out in the Atlantic. I've had fucking Liz Olson's had the fucking nerve to say to me yesterday. You know what she had the fucking nerve to say to me? I asked her, why do you think Benedict Cumberbatch shouldn't be seen with me? And she said that I was a bane to society. Now, I have 2 fucking relatives that died in submarines. One was John Moffat and Joe DiMaria. Okay? And I gave my DNA to the Navy. Okay? And this is the letter I got back. They want you to see this. They want you to see the creds. In case anybody wants to read that. And there it's gone over. My DNA is now in Dover, Quantico, Virginia, somewhere in Kentucky and Tennessee. And what Michael, the angel, said to me, Elon Musk, the motherfucker Elon Musk, is holding back. He's broken HIPAA violations on me, has my blood type, has done all sorts of DNA analysis, and won't tell the government why he wants to crucify me. But now that DNA is out there, And it's not under your control, fucking Elon Musk. And this is where your fucking testicles get ripped off, in theory. Okay, that's all about that. That man he's got somebody here fucking with my car. My car, literally, when I put the oil in it, it starts running out through the rivets right underneath. Okay? They know I'm down to my bottom dollar. And they've been fucking with me, and fucking with me, and fucking with me. And I don't know who you people are out there that I hear my name, Lisa, and this name, and that fucking name, but nobody's here to help me. So you're all my fucking enemies. Okay? Except for maybe the zoo people, they don't speak out. Now, I just found out Val Kilmer is in Trent's zoo. Mike Myers, the Canadian actor, comedian guy. And Jim Carrey, he's also Canadian, in Trent's zoo. You can thank Catherine Winnick for that, you guys. Anyway, today is Thursday. I'm aggravated. They want me to stop this channel, but I swear to fucking God in heaven, I am not stopping just because of that rich North African white fucking monkey, 'cause that's what you are. I said it. I've been wanting to say that for a long fucking time, people. Chapter 10. Putting the heat on Mom Earth. The journey toward understanding Tesla technology has taken Gene Manning to science conferences in Germany in 1987 and Switzerland 2 years later. At both meetings, she heard an American astrophysicist, Adam Trumbley, give eloquent speeches on environmental issues. A protege of the late Buckminster Fuller, Trombley had founded the nonprofit Project Earth, through which he worked with other scientists towards understanding global ecosystems, the big picture. In July of 1995, Manning telephoned Trombley at the Institute of Advanced Studies in Aspen, Colorado, to ask about possible effects of the HAARP-type experiments which would make artificial electromagnetic storms above the Earth, experiments which would lift parts of the ionosphere and would literally expand those areas while accelerating more high-energy particles in the already energetic ionosphere. HAARP would add more energy to a global system that is already stretched, replied the scientists. By stretched, he meant hyperstimulated by particle flows from the sun. To put it into perspective, think of our planet as a somewhat wobbly dynamo motoring around a sun. Our sun is an aging star and getting unreliable, to say the least. Through telescopes, people have been eyeing sunspots since Galileo's time and learned that magnetic storms above Earth and the northern lights are connected to those dark patches on the sun. In recent decades, our sun has been throwing major fits, spewing larger than usual bursts of high-energy particles into our planet's systems. Some of the hyperactivity started before men got into the act with nuclear explosions, with an effect similar to solar flares. Man-made radiation from atomic technologies adds to the crossfire of super-speedy particles in which we live. It's difficult to tell how long the sun has been going through a hyperactive cycle, because sensitive scientific instruments to measure coronal hole activity on the sun are fairly new. A thorough study has only been possible in the last couple of decades. The corona is the super hot halo of plasma around the sun. Judging by the increase in the geomagnetic noise, disturbances in the Earth's magnetic field heard on Earth, some scientists speculate that the sun may be approaching a time of change. Whether or not the sun goes through a time of spectacular hot flashes in the near future and throws even more particles at Earth, the fact is that Earth is being affected right now. Earth gets hotter. 11 years ago, we were predicting ground heating, Trombley said. The Earth actually getting hotter inductively. To understand what he was talking about, Manning later had to turn to a dictionary of science. Induction heating means that electrically conducting material, in this case, materials in the Earth, is heated as a result of the electric current induced in it by an alternating magnetic field due to interaction with the sun and even with the moon. She began to see how Earth's magnetic field could be in danger of breaking down and opening the way for a pole shift. Heat is an enemy to the strength of a magnet. The fact that the Earth is getting hotter was reported in New York Times in 1991. The article said that Arctic ice had decreased by 2% in only a 9-year period. And there's a notation here. Receding ice on Arctic Sea hints at global warming by William K. Stevens, New York Times, July 4th, 1991, page A11. Trombley was saying that before men detonated underground nuclear tests or did anything else that was massively invasive to the state of balance of Earth's systems, we were already on an unstable planet. When will Earth be electrodynamically saturated with an energy burden from the sun? The system is already at near terminal capacity, in our opinion, said Trombley. Then HAARP comes along, a project that could further destabilize an Earth that's already an unstable environment, as Trombley put it. The thought of a planet whose systems are overloaded and which may soon reach the point where it couldn't take any more high energy particles was sobering. Manning thought about the enthusiastic attitude of the scientists and military contractors whom the No HAARP group called the big boys with the big toys. Those big-time experimenters admit that they don't know what will happen when they push ionospheric heating experiments into the next level of effects. They seem to be excited about the macho adventure of passing the next threshold of effects in the ionosphere and do not hesitate to pump gigawatts of power up there and intentionally accelerate particles in the ionosphere to relativistic speeds, nearly the speed of light. Why would they be so irresponsible? Trombley answered in a word: denial. The decision makers are not being malicious, Trombley said. They are just refusing to face the facts about how flimsy is the web of life on Earth. We do not want to admit that we are in a situation that is tenuous, where there are gradual planetary processes that are punctuated by claustrophobic processes. Specialists tend to look at their own experiments as isolated incidents without seeing long-term effect on larger systems. Trombley noted, as Manning heard him talk about lack of respect for Earth's systems, she thought about a professor she had interviewed who had connected with HAARP. The professor's enthusiasm encompassed the possibility of HAARP creating a massive air glow in the ionosphere and of giving his doctoral students some technical challenges so they could get their PhDs. Could their experiments set off a catastrophe? The research of the Institute for Advanced Studies looked into such questions. For example, Earth monitoring with sensitive instruments revealed a connection between underground nuclear tests and earthquakes. While nuclear explosions zap more high energy particles into our global environment, HAARP specifically gives a sharp jab to the ionosphere. Trombley is concerned about atmospheric storms. Once you create a point-like stress differential, what is it going to do in terms of gating influx from particles? From the magnetosphere down, we already have real problems with particle influx into this planet now. Pole shift. The Soviets considered the impact of electromagnetic smog on living organisms. They concluded that because living organisms evolved under the influence of the Earth's micropulsations in the magnetic field, changes in these pulsations might alter fundamental body rhythms, including the rate that DNA replicates. From the Soviet perspective, electromagnetic pulses can influence everything from health to behavior. Russian scientists are also concerned that continued increases in electromagnetic radiations could contribute to a premature and cataclysmic reversal or position shift of Earth's poles. And there's a notation here. Cross currents, the perils of electropollution, the promise of electromedicine, by Robert O. Becker, MD. Western scientists have noted that chemical changes occur which can account for some effects of electromagnetic pulses on living systems. James D. Hayes of Columbia University found microorganism extinctions corresponding to pole reversals. He believes that in some way these living creatures use the magnetic fields of the Earth. When the fields were altered by reversal, they died. And there's a notation here. The Minefields by Kathleen McAuliffe, Omni Magazine, February 1985. This issue was also explored by one of the country's leaders in bioelectronic science, Robert O. Becker, MD. His research result also pointed to similar findings as those of the Soviet animal extinctions, a notation on the book. To the possibility of electromagnetic pollution bringing changes that could cause a pole shift is alarming. However, the interrelationship of Earth movement and atmospheric effects was discussed in a 1991 article. And the notation is fitfully, the rotation of Earth is slowing, by John Noble Wilford, the New York Times, August 9th, 1991. It is known that Earth slows down by about 1.4 milliseconds every century, but scientists more recently discovered that this can also happen in jumps. They already knew that tidal forces from the gravitational effects of the moon, sun, and other astronomical bodies contribute to slowing the Earth's spin. The new discovery is that wind, polar ice melting, ocean currents, and movements within the Earth's molten core are causing increased slowing. The forces generated by atmospheric motion have the most significant impact on either speeding up or slowing down the spin rate. In the article, Dr. Gene Dickey of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory said that 90% of these variations are caused by changes in wind. When describing the shifts in atmospheric mass, such as that associated with El Nino is a periodic change in ocean currents which have altered weather patterns. Dr. Dickey said, if the atmosphere is speeding up, Earth is slowing down. The movement of atmospheric mass adds stress over new portions of the Earth and lowers stress in other parts. This shift in pressure or forces in the planet can increase earthquake frequency in all areas which experience changes in atmospherically created stresses. This can be related to the HAARP technologies because changing ionospheric balance might shift weather patterns that are already contributing to the planet's instabilities. How much stress is needed or created by this kind of experimentation is unknown. What is known is that the Earth is a balanced organism which is increasingly being affected by reckless experimentation, either deliberate or out of ignorance. The idea that these kind of weapons systems could be used for weather modification is not new. The real work leading to the area of geophysical warfare goes back to at least 1958, when the chief White House advisor on weather modification, Captain Howard T. Orville, said the Defense Department was studying ways to manipulate the changes of the earth and sky, and so affect weather by using electronic beam to ionize or deionize the atmosphere over a given area. Now there's a notation here. The Cooling by Lowell Ponty, 1976, page 169. And the last name is spelled Ponte. As far back as 1977, scientists observed that just the location of power plant clusters could affect weather as much as could intentional injection of power into the atmosphere. They discovered that when power plants are clustered together, they alter local weather patterns. Within 6 to 12 miles downwind of these facilities, rainfall could increase by as much as 25% more than normal, and at further distances, rainfall might decrease. They concluded that the changes were the result of released heat. And there's a notation. Cluster of power plants found to change weather. The New York Times, June 5, 1977. The heat energy alone released by technology can have a debilitating effect on weather patterns. Earth's equilibrium is undergoing other disconcerting shifts. This again shows our lack of understanding of the complex processes of the planet. A New York Times article said that wave heights in the northeast Atlantic have risen by up to 20% since the 1960s. They reported study took more than 2 decades, so the effect could not be explained away by seasonal variations. And there's a notation here. Puzzled scientists find waves off Britain are growing larger. The New York Times, April 19th, 1988, page C4. The article explained that these changes in wave heights could be caused by weather system changes occurring 1,000 miles away. Tampering via HAARP will only exaggerate some anomalies in the upper atmosphere and perhaps set in motion a chain reaction. I have to say there, I just want to add, about 20 years ago, we took my son, he was 8 years old, and we went down to the Gulf Shores in Alabama. And the ocean 20 years ago was so mild, it was lovely. There was hardly a wave, and we saw a lot of flying fish and a lot of aquamarine life. Last year, I lived down there and visited the Gulf very frequently, and the Gulf was off the charts like I'd never seen it before. A lot of wave action, and the tide and the undertow current was off the charts. Like you couldn't just float in that water like you used to 20 years ago. You had to swim and stay in position with that water, and the waves were like they weren't calm like they were when 20 years ago. So I can testify for that just as a regular person living life. Anyway, I just had to add that. Electrical power generation and use of energy in northeastern United States steadily increased over the same 2 decades. Could it be that the downwind effects of weather described earlier could be contributing to this wave height observation? Could be reaching a new level where instabilities will tilt over some unknown thresholds, thereby causing unexpected geophysical reactions. Acupuncture points. There are similar ways to look at Mom Earth's natural electrical system. For example, Adam Trombley said the acupuncture model is relevant. What happens when you overstimulate an acupuncture point? You can give somebody a heart attack very easily with a very low amplitude input. Hit one of those ionospheric acupuncture points in the dynamic matrix of the ionosphere as a waveguide. What is the effect going to be? He challenges HAARP scientists to answer a big question before they send multi-gigawatt pulses up to the ionosphere. What are the saturation parameters for the ionosphere? Was his question. Manny asked him about the warning implied in the book Lost Millennium by Walter and Leigh Richman. In that novel, advanced technology tapped into the ionosphere successfully until one day when the timing was unfortunate. A solar flare set off an unquenchable avalanche of electrons that traveled back down the technician's beam and fried a planet. Could today's ionosphere modifying scientists make a similar mistake? That's what I'm talking about, Trombley said quietly. Technically, he explained what could happen in an electrodynamically saturated situation. If a natural source, solar, hyperstimulates the entire system, it could cause chaotic, dissipative motions. Events in the ionosphere then could stretch way beyond the normal limits of the physics law, a conservation of energy. It doesn't mean the energy isn't ultimately conserved. It just means that the initial environment is pervaded with far more energy than we've taken into account. In order to dissipate this energy, tremendous turbulence develops in the ionosphere and the magnetosphere. Manning pondered what she had learned at new energy science conferences. Does 20th century textbook science have an incomplete picture of what is in the empty space? Could there be interactions with the background sea of electromagnetic radiations, perhaps from distant stars, that flickers throughout space? She recalled papers in prestigious science journals that indicate there is a lot to learn about the energetic nature of the space that surrounds us. And I have a whole bunch of reference here after that. We have Daniel C. Cold and Harold E. Puthoff Puthoff, extracting energy and heat from the vacuum. Physical Review E, Volume 48, Number 2, August 1993. Bernard Haisch, Haisch, Alfonso Rueda, Rueda, and Harold Puthoff, Beyond E equals MC2, The Sciences, November, December 1994, pages 26 through 31. Harold Puthoff, Ground State of Hydrogen as a Zero-Point Fluctuation, Determined State, Physicist Review D, Volume 33, Number 10, May 15, 1987, pages 3266 through 3269. Harold Puthoff, Source of Vacuum Electromagnetic Zero-Point Energy, Physical Review A, Volume 40, Number 9, November 1, 1989, pages 4857 through 4862. And Harold Puthoff Harold, Everything for Nothing, New Scientist, July 28, 1990. Trombley was saying that for years, Russian scientists have documented unusual effects that violate physicists' expectations, non-linear, non-thermodynamic effects that violate entropy in the resonance system of the atmosphere. In the light of these discoveries, an unexpected energetic effect, he raised a few more questions for the sky-busting HAARP experimenters. Where are those energies coming from? Tell me where the point is when you reach instability. Tell me what your critical points of stress are before you do this. The ionosphere exists at a certain level of magnetoplasma dynamic order. Magnetoplasma dynamic order. It's a great word. At various levels of energy, certain gases or elements exist. If the energy level is dramatically changed, the system goes through a chaotic transition before it reconstitutes itself at another level of order. Nobel Prize winner Ilya Prigogine, I'm sorry if I bastardized your name, documented this self-orienting process in chemical systems. Since then, Trombley and many others continue to observe atmospheric processes in the light of this background understanding. Resonance, a phenomena related to the natural frequency of each part of a system, figures strongly in Tesla's technology as well as in interactions between electromagnetism and mental processes or living cells, which Dr. Nick Begich researched. Regarding global systems, interconnectedness through resonance is undeniable. Trombley said, "We have observed that when a system is near saturation, you don't know what is going to send it over the line." Resonance. That's why we can hear when we do our resonancing. Just FYI. Large-scale electromagnetics. The interconnectedness between the ionosphere and the lithosphere, Earth's crust, or the ionosphere and the inner core of the Earth, is partly an inductive relationship. He said, what does Trombley mean using an electrical term such as inductive in relation to layers of the Earth? He admits that some people who call themselves geophysicists would scratch their heads. They wouldn't know what I was talking about. But there are plenty of other ones who are good enough with electromagnetic systems on a grand scale who would at least stop and pause before they would do anything as stupid as send multi-gigawatt pulses into the ionosphere. He replied that he would not be so naive as just to say yes. If they stimulate the ionosphere in this way, then they're going to set off earthquakes. However, I would not be so cavalier as to say that if they happen to stimulate the ionosphere at a moment when it is already saturated or near saturated, that they couldn't set off an event that could induce chaos, where you could end up having a kind of magnetic storming, almost a runaway event up there. In documents the HAARP planners put together in 1990, they say that they were intentionally trying to get a runaway effect in the ionosphere. This effect was new and would represent an energy threshold not yet reached with these kinds of military tools. The document said that at the highest high-frequency powers available in the West, the instabilities commonly studied are approaching their maximum RF radio frequency, energy dissipative capability, beyond which the plasma processes will run away until the next limiting factor is reached. And there's a notation here, HAARP, HF, Active Auroral Research Program, Joint Program Plans and Activities, Air Force Geophysicist Laboratory, Navy Office of Naval Research, February 1990. What will happen when this runaway event occurs? Trombley pointed out a similarity between the decision to pulse several gigawatts into the ionosphere without knowing what will happen and the first atomic weapon testing. Years after that test, physicist Robert Oppenheimer admitted that the scientists had not known what would happen when they set off the bomb, if the chain reaction was going to stop or keep on going. The government knew that the scientists didn't know. More recently, spectrum analysis work, especially in the ultra-low frequency, ULF, part of the electromagnetic spectrum, has clearly shown how non-linear the effects from underground nuclear testing were. Trombley said non-linear means having an output that is not directly proportional to the input. In other words, unexpected or unpredictable. Scientists were completely surprised by these results. They represented many, many times the expected effect. HAARP, dangerous experiment. Manning commented that Dr. Bernard Eastlund, the inventor of an ionospheric heater technology, which may be a precursor to HAARP, claims the ionospheric heater approach could change the chemistry of the ionosphere beneficially. Trombley indicated there were safer ways to increase the ozone content. My knee-jerk reaction is still the same, he said. With a system as close to saturation as it is, why would I believe this guy when he says that by beaming this into the ionosphere, we're going to be able to heal it? I also don't want to be dogmatic and say it can't work, if it is done properly, but it just doesn't seem like a wise and prudent act to me. Trombley sounded discouraged. He and his colleagues at the Nonprofit Institute for Advanced Studies use any money that they get from clients for further research. However, he would consider their efforts a waste of time if the people with big pocketbooks aren't going to do anything constructive about the global environmental situation. There are very basic things we could do if we want to heal the atmosphere. We already know these things will be effective. Will the big money continue to go into destructive instead of constructive experiments? And that's where it ends, is at that question. And the next part to read is part 3, Electro Paintings in the Sky. Trying to pin these guys down is like nailing Jello to the wall. Thank you for listening. If you did, I appreciate you being here more than you ever could possibly know. This HAARP stuff affects some of us most directly. And remember, it is part of what they use for mind control situations. They have taken that a step further. Spirit wanted me to say, there are going to be some solar flares soon. Do you want to tell me which month? April and May of this year. So, if you're one of the people of the big guns that's got your hand on this stupid machinery to put relativistic particles out in space there, why don't you not do it April and May of this year? It would be advisable, according to the United Federation of Planets, God, and my other spirit team. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I think a lot of you are amazing, and I love just about most of you. Have a good night now.